How's it going? Hope you make it out to the garden. I've got an extension cord, but I don't know if the signal will make it. How's everybody doing today? We're going out to the vegetable garden to show you how I plant some tomatoes. I was going to do it in different, like, do the garden in different parts and then, like, record everything so you'd see individually everything going on at one time, but figure what the hell. We'll just record it live. And then later, if I want to, I can cut it out and shorten it. Anyways, for those new to the channel here, we got a lot going on in this place. Vegetable garden, beehives, several other things. A YouTube channel. And this is kind of last minute decision to do this, so I'm going to see if we can make a good run at it. I think my cord made it farther than I thought it would. That's good. So let's start with if you're 40 or older, talk to your doctor, schedule a colonoscopy. Oh, hiya. All right, we're almost there. We're going to be mulching with grass clippings, watering and foliar spraying with fermented plant juice, and foliar spraying with activated aerated compost nightcrawler tea. We will be hydrating with our favorite non-alcoholic beverage. And I didn't bring any tomatoes out here with me, so I'm gonna have to go grab those. Anybody with us yet? All right, let's see. Pretty hard to see here, but we have been having some of the most amazing weather here in Minnesota the last 2 weeks for sure. But it can change at any time, so everything I'm planting right now, I have to be prepared to lose unless I see the weather coming and cover it. So we'll have to be on high alert. All right, so I'm gonna go grab some tomatoes. I've got the mulch here. I'll be popping back and forth the compost tea and the fermented plant juice is like 50 yards away from, well, 45 yards away from here. So I'll spin the camera around when I go over there, but I'll be right back. I would have forgot this anyways, but the tomato plant's right over there. Somebody could have told me. Some of the things we'll be using today, like I mentioned, the fermented plant juice and compost tea. We're going with some nightcrawler castings that have been fed basic right now, some green peppers, some eggshells, and what else? Coffee grounds. Pretty basic. I guess first I start with tilling, as you can see, right? I keep the rows about 6 feet apart. My plants get pretty big. I'm going to take a hole, and I do it like an assembly line kind of. I dig the holes, and then I throw down some worm castings, and then we got to wrap the stem in some aluminum foil. This is actually the wrapper off the aluminum foil, which is crazy. It seems like it's made out of aluminum too. Huh. Interesting. So what you do, because we have cutworms in the dirt around here, and it never fails if I don't wrap them in tin foil, 2 or 3 plants in general. It's not just the tomato plants. It can be pepper plants, eggplant, pepper, tomato, eggplant. There's probably several others, but the ones that I grow, that's probably it. As far as I can think of right now, I think it is. The vine stuff doesn't seem to have too much problems. It would if we had gophers, but if you've watched my how to get rid of gophers video, we don't have a gopher issue around here. Actually, to make that video, I had to wait for quite a while to have a gopher in the area. But what you're going to do is cut off like an 1.5 inch piece. And I go, because it's easier to handle, like 2.5, 3 inches long. And then I fold over one edge of it to make it more rigid. And then I turn over, put the rigid end on the bottom, and then I wrap it around the stem right where it goes into the ground. Now, we'll get to that point at some point. But for anybody watching this video right away, if they're just hanging out for a couple minutes, they would know. I use a string line to keep the rows straight. Usually I will water the plants first, and then I will put the plants in the ground, wet or moist, and then wait to water them until the next day. Let them get used to the soil. I don't like putting plants in the ground and then having them sit through the night wet. Although this ground is kind of a medium. It drains well when it's tilled, but then it compacts. If you follow along through the year, I guess you'll be learning that as we go. So I'm going to go, let's see. I guess I don't have to go anywhere except for... All right, I have 12 tomato plants left. 6 of them are determinate, so they will flower sooner in the year, and then they will all become ripe pretty much at the same time, and it'll all be earlier in the year. The sun is shining like crazy in Chadtown here today. You're gonna have to leave a comment. I can see when people leave comments, so hit me up in the comments here, and let me know who's hanging out. So I've got 12 tomato plants. I've got 2 holes down at the very end there that are still empty. And then I'm just going to come in here and right underneath this string line, I'm going to dig a hole. And I'm going to space it out, 2.5, 3 feet, probably about 3 feet. Dig another hole. Same thing, one more big step right under the line. So on and so forth. Now, I usually do this barefoot. Nothing like it, really. How many holes do I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Boom. Pretty basic, pretty easy. We got 10 holes out there. They probably could be spaced a little further apart, so I'm going to go clean them up just a little bit. You know what? That's going to work. If I get too far apart, these get so tall, I like to be able to kind of be able to tie them all together, and that kind of holds them up. We get crazy wind here, and it hits them right broadside. All right, so now I'm going to take our worm castings. Boom. I'm just putting the worm castings in there for a little bit of, biological activity. If I had some more blood meal on hand and bone meal, I might throw some of that in there, but I'm going to be watering in fermented plant juice and compost tea and foliar spraying with the compost tea. So I just want the first thing them roots hit when they come out of that, likely pretty sterile environment they're in, to hit, something good. And these were homemade. All right. I'm not going to be stingy with them. Oh, no, wait. Oh, so this is our, my bad. I still have to get the Nightcrawler castings. This is my homemade biochar. We're going to use some of that too. That'll be the real good test of it. All right, we're going to run through with the biochar first. So we are going to get a little bit of stuff for the microbes to work on. This is inoculated, and it's my own special blend. If you've watched any of the other episodes, or if you watch other episodes, maybe you've crossed my biochar video. These are the biggest chunks here. Everything else is smaller, and it's inoculated to the hilt. So we're going to throw some of the stuff in here. Just a handful, small handful, right in the bottom of the hole. Same thing with our worm castings. And then if you decide you're not going to stick around for the whole video, in the end, we're going to be mulching over the top. Let's see if I can see where we're at here. Each of these rows going to look like that. Okay, and then they're going to be, because they have a little well built up around them, right? Then I'm going to top dress them with amendments and water those in with our fermented plant juice and our compost teas. And for those of you that aren't aware, I've made one fermented plant juice last year and it seemed to work. So I made another one. And I've made one compost tea prior to this one that I've made now. The first compost tea, fabulous reaction. Never saw any bad reactions, but there was a certain kind of plant that the upper leaves were way up like this and the bottom leaves were like this. But I went and flicked the leaf that was hanging down like this, and it actually just wasn't hanging, it was actually flexing. So that stuff really kicked in real hard. So I would suggest you be a little careful with it. That was like 1/3 mix of the fermented plant juice. So I would probably dilute it down to like half or more, less concentrated. But play around with it. I'm gonna play around with it. And then that compost tea, you can pretty much spray that on straight, but I mean that's kind of overkill. So you can dilute that, by half probably, depending on how strong your mixture is. The mixture that I made this last time was pretty strong. It had extra fish fertilizer in it, extra everything, but that seemed to do really well. I mean, everything reacted that I hit it with, so. And you can see a protective coating on it. All right, next we are going to be might as well do this here. We're going to take each one of these plants out. We're going to take out, or not out, but we're going to take off all the bottom leafage here. So I'll show you here. If you look down on this stem down here, right by the dirt, and you can probably see him there. Let's see if I can hold it steady and if I get in a good picture. All right. So you look at that stem, you see them like needly looking hairy things. Some of you may recognize those. They're trichomes. They are not the rounded type of trichomes. They're the pointy type of trichomes. I imagine they have like terpenes and flavonoids, stuff like that. But that would be it in the tomato realm. This is one thing you do not want to make a fermented plant juice out of. Anything in the nightshade family. Tomato is nightshade. These leaves are poisonous if you consume them. So you don't want to be spraying them on your plants. So do not use tomatoes, tomato vine, leaf or tomato vegetation for your fermented plant juices. Use weeds, them really hardy weeds that seem to, live in your area, like come back every year. Most of them will be native. They're the ones that are adapted to survive, and the only way they survive is by being really hardy, being able to uptake stuff that's in terrible ground, So you brew that stuff and feed that to your plants, and it's going to get the optimum amount of all the good stuff, and probably then some also, All right. That one's set up to be foiled. We're going to do this one too. Everything down just to where you have like the top cluster of leafage that's coming out, and then like 2 branches. And then we're going to put the foil around the waist of this plant, and then we're going to bury it up almost up to those branches that we left on there. These will grow roots. Those trichomes, I believe, those are what turn into the roots on the stem of the plant, but maybe not, maybe those are just a receptor to do it. I don't know. Just seems like, that's one step away from being a root the way it looks, but they happen to be called trichomes. So cut all the bottom shit off, a couple of branches at the top, bang bang. All right, let's see. I guess they call that lollipopping. Not familiar with that term so much. Only do it with this and peppers, I guess. All right. Oh, maybe my eggplant, I would probably do that too. Now, like I said, we're going to take our aluminum foil. And you don't have to secure it on there, whatever. It just has to go around one time. Sometimes they might reach around a couple of times. But whatever. Just leave it on loose enough to where the plant can grow. Let's see, there we go. Pretty easy. And then we'll bury it to where the bottom part of this is just into the surface of the dirt, and the aluminum is sticking up. That keeps cutworms from cutting your stem completely off. They'll just come in and cut right through your stem, and then that's it. Your plant will tip over dead, and they're off onto the next one. Cut it down. For whatever reason, they only eat that little bit of material that cuts out. They cut the plant, cut off the plant. Whatever, you know what I'm trying to say, right? All right. So I'm gonna wrap these up quick. Anybody visiting yet? Negative? Everybody's busy out playing. It's, like I said, amazing weather today. I'm sweating my ass off, but I'm loving it. Minnesota here, we put up with quite a winter. And You know, most of the time we get crappy springs. This is one for the record books. I've never experienced one hotter. You got to be careful though. This can suck you into a lull, and you can lose your plants if you're not keeping an eye on the weather. They will freeze. Usually, the first week in June is a good safe time around these parts to plant pretty much whatever you need to. First or second week, you don't want to go too late because then it gets too hot. So, like if you're planting corn, I'm going to be planting corn, next week probably. So that's the last week of May, as long as it doesn't get cold. I usually plant 3 or 4 different kinds, like 75 stalks of each kind. So, I can have sometimes 400 or so corn stalks. It's not uncommon. I like corn. A lot of people like corn. And you never know. Some stuff might not pollinate. That's kind of like why I reinforce what I'm growing by buying more plants. Or kind of like back them up. So in case there's an issue and, one kind doesn't produce a whole lot, you got a few other kinds that will probably, may grow better. And I shouldn't say probably. You never know. But I'll buy several different kinds of peppers, like green bell pepper kinds. And then the colored ones, the orange and the red or whatever. And then I won't even bother to let those ripen. I like green peppers. Them red ones never seem to ripen well, but now that we're adding calcium to our stuff, we might see a better result in blossom and rot in our tomatoes and our peppers. If you're not familiar with that, that is when you're growing your tomato or your pepper, and then the bottom end where the flower closes up rots out. The tomatoes usually get big round brown spots, and the peppers, they usually don't seal up completely, and then you get stuff getting inside the pepper, and they ripen really early or rot. Just about ready with the tin full of babies. All right, rehydrate. Oh, criminy. Of course, I left my beverage right in the sun. I'm pretty wet. Yeah, that was half frozen when I came out here. Okay, which ones we got here? Parks Whopper improved. We're going to start out with the Parks Whopper, and then we will end up with the celebrities. So the celebrities are going to get far in. I was thinking we were going to use those last 2 holes on the other row, but we're not. So I'm going to plug 2 more holes in the ground, or pop 2 more holes in the ground. I'll be right back. Not that hard to plant tomato plants. Now that I have new hips. And for those that don't know, I'm cancer free now. And looking forward to be called cured here in 6 months or so. Now it's all not all, you know, fun and games, but I'm still here. And I love doing this kind of stuff, so making a little well around them, watering purposes. And that's it. Make sure that aluminum foil is a little bit in the ground, a little bit on the ground. Bang, bang. Plus, you can get them underneath this rope. I kind of fudge it up a once in a while. Boom, 12 pepper plants in the ground. Sure, everybody else is doing either exactly what I'm doing or some variation of what they love today, because we are having amazing weather. Take a walk down the rows. That one there got a little sunburnt. These were put in the ground yesterday. These were today. As soon as the sun goes down a little bit, I'm going to foliar spray everything, knock the dirt off of these poor babies, and then everything's going to get water tomorrow morning. Water and FPJ, fermented plant juice. All right, I'm going to go get a tarp so I can haul around some grass clippings. I should point this out before I forget. This tree right here, if anybody's familiar with my honey, that is the tree that gives the honey the spearmint or mint flavor or whatever. That's a linden tree, or otherwise known as basswood tree. So you might either hear it called linden honey or basswood honey. That tree there is the culprit. When I first started keeping bees, that's all the honey that I got that year was the linden honey. And I was pretty bummed out when I thought all the honey was going to taste like that all the time. It is amazing honey. It's got more different kinds of nutrients than any other honey, but it wasn't what I was, expecting. Am I pointing at that thing anymore? Yeah, there we go. That tree right there. Hello. Right there. Amazing tree. All right. Back to it. Grass clippings from the yard. Might as well start here so these are less affected by the dryness of the dirt. Our ground is pretty dry right now for having such a wet year last year. Then they're going to get tomato cages around them. Some of them may get tied up at some point. But, like I said, now this is a good base for doing our amendments. We can drop them in here, give them a little scrunch up. And I've seen roots grow into these grass clippings after that stuff. So, good stuff, good idea. Solid idea. Lots of air in this stuff. Why wouldn't roots want to be in here? You're going to be spraying it with microbes. You know what I mean? Throw some wood chips on here if you want. Some mycorrhiza or mycelium or whatever the heck they call that stuff. Both, actually, probably. All right, time to take 5. You can see it's pretty nice out. Sheesh. Well, I wasn't dirty already. I'm dirty now. Whoa. That was not an endorsement. Well, I might as well cut her off here. I don't think anybody's popped in. If anybody watches this in the future, thanks for checking in. That's my method for tomatoes. I'm going to probably watch it so I can see if it turned out. If not, I'm going to get rid of it. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed. Adios. I don't even know what the temperature is, but it's got to be close to 90.